Hey, party peeps! Another MangaMan commentary here for you. The last commentary I did was my very first review, so I thought that it would be kind of cool to do commentary for my very first top 11 review. Specifically, my most popular video on YouTube, the top 11 giant anime mecha. And there's the handsome devil himself. Ah, yes, the title card that you saw before is, of course, drawn by me, as are all of my title cards. I actually don't know what anime series this is that we're watching right here. I just remembered I typed in, like, Mecha in YouTube, and I just grabbed whatever clips I could for this beginning intro. And, of course, I'm saying this on the fly. By the way, those clips from Evangelion are actually clips that I know it's stealing either way, but I technically took from a segment of Little Cerebro. I took one of his videos, actually, in which he did Abridging 101, and I took clips from those. These clips I just got from like openings of like fan-made AMVs and whatnot. Easiest way to get clips, I think, because it's really hard to like try to scroll through an entire series just to get a good clip of something, you know? So, anyways, I remember that the last commentary I did with the Soul Eater review, somebody asked if I would do a commentary for my top 11 mecha list, and so here you go. Also, I am a huge fan of Megasex Solar, and I was totally upset when Toonami canceled that show. So upset when that happened. Loved that show, and in honor of it, and it just fit too perfectly with this review, I honored the series by using the song for my list. And we come to, I guess I just kind of talk about the clips. Yeah, that is actually a statue in Japan. They actually built it in honor of the godfather of all mecha, which I think is pretty awesome, per se. I know that there's like a bunch of other statues in Japan, like I think most people know of the giant moving Gundam statue. Don't say moving like it can walk around or fly or something. I'm saying that it can like it lights up in the night sky and can turn its head, and I think it can lift its arm. I don't really know. I just remember seeing pictures of it while I was getting images for Gigantor's statue. I also know that there's like several statues in honor of the late great god of manga. There's statues of course, his most famous character, Astro Boy, and also of his magnum opus, Phoenix. There's a Phoenix statue I know in a park somewhere in Japan. If ever I were to go to Japan, I think the first thing that I would try to do is try to do like a cross-country trip around the country and try to locate all the statues of famous anime characters. Like, what other statues? Well, I know that there's one for like Gegege no Kitaro again in the park, but it's a small one like the Phoenix. Oh, and I was so happy that I was able to find that song on iTunes. It is actually available on a CD. I think the rapper was like Pterodactyl, I think he called himself or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I was a little bit afraid about talking about Voltron. Like, I knew I had to bring Voltron up because he was a big figure in the 80s, especially in America. I'm not sure about Japan, although I'm sure he probably was very popular in Japan as well. But I think it was mostly America where most of Voltron's popularity comes from because, well, we invented the name for him and changed a lot of the story, but I'm not going to debate something that I don't have, that I haven't even seen that much for. I've actually, I think I watched like maybe the first episode of Voltron, and all I can say is, ooh, Early voice acting. I was, now thinking back at it, I'm wondering if they were trying to go for a Star Trek approach. Because because I haven't watched Star Trek either, but I've seen many reviewers talk about Star Trek. And I remember that there was a character, a Russian in there, and he has a terrible Russian accent. Just like in this series, there is a boy with, I believe, to be a Russian accent, although I can't really say for certain. Terrible accents and horrible voice acting on Voltron's part, but people love it, man. It's corny, but it's great. Just like another series I know, like Power Rangers here. But yeah. And like, even though I never really got into Voltron, I could respect it because deep down it had a really good story, really epic tale of like traveling, those type of stories that I really like, which makes me sad about how horrible the new Voltron Force on Nickelodeon has totally shamed the name of the original. The only thing from the original it has is both the name and half of the company that made it, and that half being the American half that dubbed the series. The animation, I haven't seen an episode of the new Voltron Force, but the animation, just from seeing it on the commercials, my god. It was almost as bad as the Speed Racer relaunch. Oh my god, don't get me started on the Speed Racer relaunch. Hell, I've never really been a big fan of combining 3D and 2D animation, especially early 2000s. That was when it was like in its infancy and really the worst. But there have been some series that have done a good like blending of both the 3D and 2D, where you can barely even see it sometimes. Like a new series, Tiger and Bunny does a good job. You can tell that it's 3D, but they blend it well together, that it doesn't become too distracting, I think. And it's still a very enjoyable series, unlike the Voltron Force and the new Speed Racer Generations, which you can obviously tell the differences between the 3D and 2D animation. But I ranted on about that enough. I haven't even talked about Big O here. Loved Big O. Loved it. It was one of the few shows that I was able to watch. Oh yeah, and that's just that clip that you just saw a few seconds there of me doing my little gimmick bit. Yeah, that's just me making fun of myself. Ever since the Soul Eater clip, I guess I've kind of been, ever since Soul Eater, I've just been kind of like poking fun of myself, per se, to try to say like, yeah, I don't take myself seriously either. But you should. Anyways. Big O, loved watching it. I was one of those people that watched it on Adult Swim. Loved the series, and I love the voice acting. It's beautiful, beautiful, and I do agree with what most people say, is that it's kind of like an anime Batman without it being, like anime Batman, which they actually do have. I think it's called Gotham Knight. I know they made Iron Man. There's several Marvel heroes got their own anime. Marvel. They got Iron Man, X-Men, Wolverine, which are all pretty good. Lovely animations. Beautifully done animations. Gorgeous to watch. It was quite a challenge to try to find all the contenders to fill up the slots for this list. I looked through... the first thing that I did when I knew that I wanted to create a top 11 giant mecha list was to, many of the different ways that I went about trying to look. I first wrote down all the mecha series that I remember watching, and that was just from my own personal experience. And then I thought of all the mecha series that I've heard. I looked them up and kind of went from there. After I went through the ones that I either heard or knew about, I then tried to try to find some that I may have not heard about. Like, what's an example on this list? Well, one of the things that I did, I can't give a specific example, but one of the things that I did is that I went to several of my anime viewing websites and looked up under their mecha genre all the different mecha series that they had, and I kind of browsed through all of them to try to pick out ones for the list. Now, the requirements, if you didn't catch that in the beginning of the video, for the mecha on this list to have is that it had to have a vast arsenal of weapons. Of course, size is the biggest factor in this. Biggest factor. As well as something a little, unique about them. Something that gives them something that makes them stand out from all the other mecha, like Get a Robo here. I mean, being able to transform into 3 radically different functioning mecha, I mean, that's pretty impressive. And pretty unique in mecha series. Or like a Super Mage Giant Phantom MK2 here, with the ability to cast magic spells. Now, I know I said I knew that there had to be some mecha that ran on magic. I knew there had to be something like that, but I didn't know what. So that's why I didn't give any specific examples there. But yeah, a lot of people at the end with numbers 1 and 2 complained a lot about, well, mentioned how they were hoping to see like a Daemon Bane or like a Gunbuster or Diebuster or Ideon and those type of guys. And again, I apologize for not mentioning them, but I have to remind you that the Mecha series is vast, and I did my hardest. I spent like 6 months on this review right here. 6 months in gathering up information, filming myself, editing the clips, but mostly for just trying to find the mecha. I tried to cover all the areas, and while looking at this list, I showed it to a friend of mine, and he kind of mentioned this, and I kind of agree with him. He said, like, the first part of the list was mostly mecha that had unique traits, and then the second part of the list was mostly weapons and whatnot. And then finally, the third part, he said, was definitely for the bigger boys, the size, which was supposed to be what this list was. And, with all these works of fiction, I tried to find out, like, how big some of these mecha were, but it's hard to find that type of information. I'm sure it was out there, but I was not able to find it. I tried my best to do comparisons based on, like, just how big is a mecha compared to a building that it's next to, or how big it is compared to, like, a planet or a universe. But, yeah, I tried my best to look through as many mecha series as I could. Originally, there were some mecha that were originally on this list, but then got taken off. Like, for example, the mecha from Evangelion were originally going to be on this list for their unique ability of having a time limit as to how long they can stay in battle. I think it was either 1 minute or 30 seconds. But then after thinking it over, I thought, that's a stupid ability to have. I mean, sure, it's interesting to see a mecha that's trying to be a mecha series that's trying to be realistic, and like if there really was something this ginormous, it would need to have a whole lot of power and take out an entire city grid. So I can respect it for that point, but compared to these other mecha, it just seems silly to even try to add it on there.